exclusive 76ers film breakdowns over on the Patreon. Also, I'm probably going to put my Doc Rivers press conference reaction over there. Also, patreon.com/runitbackphilly. Go to the merch store. Get yourself a very nice, comfy, warm, sexy, beautiful hoodie for hoodie season, and it has a Run It Back Philly logo. You help me out as an independent content creator, and you get some comfortable, wonderful, high-quality clothing. Hit the like button and leave a comment for the algorithm.
Run it back, Philly. No frauds, no fanboys, no intros.
You ever watch a game where you can just tell, no. That team's just playing really, really bad right now, and they're going to start playing better, and this team's going to lose by a lot. You ever feel like that when you're watching the beginning of a game? You can just see it. You can just feel that energy. So it was close in the beginning, and she said, is this going to be a back-and-forth kind of game? And I said, nah, the Atlanta Hawks are going to run away with this one about around the end of the third quarter. And I had a tweet before the game started. Earlier in the day, I had a tweet, and I also posted it on Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram or Twitter, what are you really doing with your life? And I said, the Atlanta Hawks, parentheses, young and fast, parentheses, are 7th in the NBA in points per game and 7th in the NBA in rebounding. I said the Philadelphia 76ers, parentheses, old and slow, parentheses, are 24th in the NBA in points per game and 29th in the NBA in rebounding. This is not going to be a close game. We got lucky that the Atlanta Hawks shot 30% from the floor. What'd they shoot from three? 20%. They shot 44% from the floor and 23% from three. So we got lucky. That's the only reason this game was close through three quarters. So I didn't look at it in a positive light. I didn't look at it like, oh, the Sixers are shooting bad and they're only down by 5. No, the Atlanta Hawks were shooting worse than I've ever seen a team shoot, and they were up by 5. That's how bad we were in this game. We shot 38% from the floor and 20% from three. But this game ended, the nail in the coffin, once again, was Doc Rivers. At the end of the third quarter, midway through the third quarter, Joel Embiid picked up his 4th personal foul. And I said that means they're gonna sit him until halfway through the 4th because you don't want him to get it 5. You don't want him to foul out. They left him in for a couple more plays, and then Doc Rivers took him out. And I'm not here to say Paul Reed was good in this game by any means, any stretch of the imagination. Paul Reed had 4 fouls in what felt like 4 seconds. But Doc Rivers took Joel Embiid out of the game. Now there's a fire truck. I'm trying to do a YouTube show. Can you have a fire some other time? Anyway, Joel Embiid got his 4th foul about midway through the third quarter. And they took him out of the game, as they should have. But once again, Doc Rivers went with George Niang at center in an NBA basketball game. Doc Rivers went with George Niang to pronounce it in his father's native language, George Niang. Doc Rivers went with George Niang at center in an NBA game against Clint Capella at the end of the third quarter, and they got absolutely smoked. They got absolutely smoked when he did that. And he did that in the Spurs game, and he did that in that Toronto game that we didn't compete in. And I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. I remember the game where I was like, it's not about like, yo, you have to play Paul Reed or you have to play Montrezl Harrell. But why in the world is Montrezl Harrell only getting 3 minutes in a basketball game? Paul Reed's only getting 9 minutes. So you got 12 minutes of Paul Reed and Montrezl Harrell. And I know Doc can't figure out the balance. But that means there was 8 minutes. Joel played 31. So there was an 8-minute stretch where you didn't have Joel Embiid, Paul Reed, or Montrezl Harrell on the floor. You had an 8-minute stretch where you did not play a center. And I'm not saying Montrezl Harrell can defend anybody in the paint because he can't, but he can rebound. You had an 8-minute stretch where you did not play a center against Clint Capella. The game was over at that point. That's where the game ended. They went on a run and they made it a 20-point game, and it was over. It's time to cut ties, man. It's time to cut ties. This team looks completely...
My whole music experience really started with SoundCloud. I love the freedom.
Lost. The coach looks completely lost in who to play, when to play him, why to play him, who to play him with. It just looks ridiculous. This looks ridiculous. I want to say this too. Doc Rivers throws in a white flag, down by 18 with 4 minutes left? Throws in the towel. Doc's throw in the towel lineup was better than his starting lineup. Montrezl Harrell comes in the game, starts clawing, climbing like a cat up the side of a mountain, fighting every single possession, every single play. Montrezl Harrell was the only player on this entire roster showing any fire. I didn't see any fire, and I haven't seen any fire from this team in a long time. I didn't see any fire from this team this entire game until Montrezl Harrell came in the game with 4 minutes left. And he starts fighting for offensive rebounds, diving on the floor, hustling, picking up Trae Young at half court, forcing turnovers. Why does one guy have all of that fight and effort inside of him and nobody else does? Why? But the deep bench made a run. And the deep bench playing better than your starters tells me everything I need to know about this coach's lineups. You need a new voice, you need a new decision maker, and your lineups need to change. You played George Niang and PJ Tucker at the 4 and the 5 at the end of the third quarter against Clint Capella and get smoked. You play all the old slow guys all the time. And then the game's out of reach, and you put in Matisse Thybulle, Paul Reed, Montrezl Harrell. You put in all the athletes, and they make a run. Wow. Here we are again. This guy does not realize you need young, athletic players on the floor in the NBA. He doesn't get it. So they make that run. They cut it down to 8 points, all on the back of Montrezl Harrell. And I'm not saying they were going to win the game. I don't think they were going to win the game. They cut it down to 8 points because of the sheer effort and fight from Montrezl Harrell when he came in the game. And this coach actually put the starters back in the game with 1 minute and 30 seconds left. He put the starters, who played an absolutely pathetic basketball game, he put the starters back in the game with 1 minute and 30 seconds left. Why did he do that? They didn't deserve to be on the floor. Are you kidding me? They did not deserve to be on the floor. The lack of effort, heart, hustle, fire, and everything that those starters showed for 3.5 quarters, they did not deserve to come back out on the floor. Your bench came in, gave you fight, gave you effort, cut it to 8 points. They weren't going to win, but they deserved to stay out there for the rest of that game. You should have left the starters on the bench to send a message. But this coach rewarded them by putting them back in the game. What's wrong with this dude, man? Who does that? Who throws in the white towel, the bench makes a run and cuts it to 8 points, and you put the starters back in the game who didn't give you anything for 3.5 quarters? Who does that?